Hello everyone. Actually, I didn't intend to make a video today, but because there was some nice drama on Team Liquid, I decided to make one anyway. Um, the drama is about the Ministry of Winhouse in Poland, and there's a Uppsala. Let's get this here. There's a post by Fuser, which I have on the screen here. I'm not going to read the entire thing or show you everything. Basically, it's in Starcraft 2 general, and then drama in the Ministry of Winhouse and MoW. And well, yeah, there's a post by Fuser that he went, or rather that he was in the house, and that they want after some time they wanted him to sign a contract. Like the details are a bit blurry. Anyway, he wanted to review the contract with his lawyer, and apparently something went wrong there. Like they didn't want to send the contract to his lawyer without him proving that he is actually a lawyer, and then apparently they set him a deadline until which he had to sign, and he didn't, and so he got kicked out. He wanted his money back, at least part of it, because he only stayed like a few days of that month, and they didn't want to give him back the money. And then the Team Liquid account of the house posted a bit over 2 hours ago that they would make a statement within 2 hours. And actually, I wanted to wait whether they would make the statement, and that's why I waited until now. But they still haven't made a statement within the 2 hours, and so that's why I just started doing my video now. Just now I saw a post that they provided a statement to a trusted eSport news source. Well, anyway, that's a bit late. I already started doing my video, so I'm not going to stop right now. I don't want to go into too much detail because we only have the side of Fuser, and of course there is some bias in what he said, and but generally I think there's in some things he is certainly right, that they don't let him wait to get the whole thing reviewed by his lawyer, and I think that they don't give him the money back. Generally, I think that they just don't. Well, they just want to save money, or just keep the money, because they probably didn't expect him to make a threat on Team Liquid. Because in most of these cases, and I think this is not too uncommon. I'm not talking that there's more of those kind of events at the gaming house in Poland, but there's many of similar or just many small shady things that happen in the esports scene. Oftentimes they it's with players that are not so known, so they are afraid of posting publicly because they are afraid. Well, obviously they would probably get kicked out of their team, and they would not get any money. And because they depend on because they don't get so much money, they depend on the bit of money they get, and they are afraid of not getting it, and so they keep their mouth shut, and they don't post anything publicly. So yes, even if the whole, even if Fuser exaggerated in some points, it just sounds a bit shady. He also wrote, for example, that whoever the boss is, I don't know him, that he, for example, that he was partying with friends or something in the gaming house in the night while the players were trying to sleep, and that they were fed fries, and they had one warm meal per day, which is I mean, maybe in some countries that's normal, but I think in actually quite many European countries, 2 warm meals a day are rather common, and it just seems like a couple of things were quite rather unprofessional. I mean, you can't just party in the middle of the night when there's people sleeping that actually pay to live there and pay you. And I mean, if you are a neighbor, then they at least they can complain to. I don't know whether they can complain to police, but anyway, that just seems pretty weird to me, and rather unprofessional. And then the whole thing, for example, people have been saying Fuser should have known about the contract in advance, and not just went there and just paid in cash, but he should have made a contract immediately. And I guess those people are right in a way, that Fusa was probably like too, like, how do you say, like maybe a little bit naive and like just inexperienced. Like he was just like trusted the people he talked to and like didn't expect that he would get screwed. And yes, you should be careful. I also posted this in the thread. And you should be careful when you deal with organizations. But of course, like, I would personally prefer to deal with organizations where I don't have to be so afraid of getting screwed any moment. And so I think like even if they are like theoretically right and like well legally right, it still has a like really bad taste. That like it just leaves a bad taste. So I'm curious what the statement will be once it's actually released. So yeah, I want to just like use this as an introduction and give like some advice to like players that like come into the scene that are like uprising. Because I've heard quite a few stories. I'm not going to give any details here because the people that told me those stories they didn't make them public themselves, and so I don't want to make them public either because well they choose not to, and so it would be really unfair of me like to like take away that the decision they made. And so I'm sorry that I can't give you any details, but generally like when you when you get into like low grandmasters, high masters or something like that, and like a team asks you to join, and they offer you like a small salary, maybe like 50 or 100 euro a month, and maybe they offer you that like once a year or once per half year they would pay travel to an event for you. At first, like you should not get too excited because depending on the team, like there can be all sorts of like traps, and like some of the more common ones that I've heard of, I will just like talk about those here. Like first of all, I don't like believe anything that people promise you. Like if they say you sign a 1-year contract with us and there's a certain salary in the contract, and they say that if you do really well, then then after like half a year we can talk about it again and about increasing your salary. Like, why would they do that? I mean, if you're doing better than at the beginning and your value has risen, there's not so much reason to pay you more. They can still do that when your contract runs out. They can still make you a good offer at the end. Of course, there might be teams who do that, but generally, I would be very careful with that. So, if you are practicing a lot, if you have taken some time off to play full time, which is I think generally something you have to be very careful with, then be very careful. Like don't trust any kind of like promises, like in whatever form, unless it's in the contract. You should not trust anything. Like and for example, I've heard of like a case where a player signed a contract, but the salary was not specified in the contract. Actually, it was only promised. And then at the end they just said, well, we didn't know anything about that, and I mean like the person they talked to like was very friendly and everything, but at the end they didn't get the money, and they just said like the person just disappeared and like the management didn't know anything about it, and of course the player didn't get any money. And yeah, so definitely you want all the details in the contract. And next, even if you have a contract, of course it's very hard for you to take any legal action if the clan doesn't fulfill what's in the contract, because if the clan is in like, I don't know, from Kazakhstan or something, like what are you going to do? Like I personally wouldn't know what I would do if I had any kind of like something legal, like a legal trouble with a business, like a company that is like from, well, like even if it's outside of Germany, I mean, I would of course ask a lawyer about it, but I think it's not so easy, and it might be quite costly to do anything. And so, generally, if you want to be somewhat sure about it, of course you can just join whatever team you want. If you don't have high expectations, generally I would recommend don't have high expectations. If you are new in the scene and you join your first team that offer you salary, don't put too much hope into actually getting paid, because there's a lot of teams that just don't pay, or they pay like months late, and then when your contract ends, like the rest, that like the salaries that should come like after your contract ends, they just won't come, for example. And so yes, don't or be very careful when you deal with teams that are rather new in the scene. I don't want to like say any names here because I might do them unjust, but I mean there has been quite a few new teams coming up lately, and sometimes there has been some drama about them, and I think not without reason. If you want to have a good team, look for a team that has been in the scene for a long time, that has had rather little drama. Like you should also try to talk to players that were in the team before. I think that's actually a very good source. Don't talk to the players that are in the team right now, because obviously they are not really allowed to talk bad about their employer. Because that could get them into trouble. So like it's a bit risky to talk to the players that are in the team right now. You should talk to people that have left the team for whatever reason, that were in the team previously. Talk to them about like whether salaries were paid in time, how it was with travel, like travel organization, whether the team actually ended up paying for like flight and hotel. And even if former players talk good about the team, you should still be careful if the team is like a rather small and unknown team, because the economic situation of the team can always change, or maybe that player was a very good player that was very important to the team, and it makes a big difference how important you are to a team. Like a team can treat different players in a squad like completely different. Like if one player is very important to the team, of course, like he will get his salary in time, he will get flights paid, and everything. But another player that's not so important, like that's where they can save money on. And so yes, you have to be very careful. Ideally, you want to pick a team that has been around for a long time, and where there's where you can get some information about how they are with paying. Because even teams that have been in the business for many years often have some questionable like business practices, whatever you want to call it. Like I don't want to call any names, but I've heard stories even of teams that have been around for a long time. Next point is, if you join a team and they expect you to pay for your travel up front, and then ask you to send in receipts to them, and then they pay you, you should be very careful with that. If they ask you to do that for a train ticket that costs €100 or so, or maybe 150, or like for the taxi tickets, like that's how it is for me. Like I like stuff like that I book myself, and I send in the receipts to alternate, and well, that has never been a problem. But like in another team that asks you to book your hotel and your flight yourself, then you should really get careful. That's something I personally never have to do. And that's something I would be. I mean, I've been in alternate for over 2 years now, so I would trust them with that. But if I would not have been in the team for a really long time, I would not do that. I simply wouldn't go to the event, or I would tell them that I'm not going to invest so much, like take such a big risk. Because if you book a flight to, like even if it's just to like Sweden for a DreamHack, I mean you pay maybe like 200-300 for the flight. Hotels in Sweden aren't cheap, so maybe you pay like 400 for the hotel. That's 700 for a trip that on average is not going to make you 700. And for someone who does not have so much money, that's quite a big risk. And so you should have to be very careful with paying upfront. Like paying smaller things upfront, I guess that's something a risk you have to take. But if it's about flights and hotels, I would recommend you actually to simply not to do that, and just tell them that they should book it for you. Yeah, that's it basically. And even if a teammate of yours has made good experience with that in the past, you still have to be careful, because you don't know how important you are to the team necessarily, and how important your teammate was to the team. Yeah, that's basically like the main points. I will make another video like about organizations and like problems with organizations and esports in the future. I just wanted to get like those points out generally just be very careful, be suspicious, especially if something sounds very good, there's most likely a problem with it. And yeah, try to get contracts, and like don't put trust into people that you don't know for all too long. Like if you have been a team for many years, then it's of course then you can have more trust into them. But with anything new, with a new organization like, well, the gaming house in Poland or a new team, you have to be very, very careful, and you really have to expect to get screwed over, because esports simply is not that professional yet. That's it for today. Tomorrow I will make a video preview for the WCS Europe final, to which I will be traveling on Friday. I hope you liked this video. I always welcome comments. Please also post in my thread on Team Liquid, which I will show you here. Starcraft 2 general and then DarKFoRcE video blogs. I really appreciate comments here. Alternatively, you can also comment on YouTube. And if you have any questions for my next Q&A video, please also leave them in the thread here. You can just make a post here. There's also some people here that have asked me some good questions that I will answer in my next question and answer video most likely. So yeah, good night guys.